My manager's name was Don, and he had the kind of face you only see at 2 a.m. under fluorescent light. Pale, tired, and permanently braced for the next inconvenience. He hired me on a Wednesday afternoon like he was doing me a favor he didn't want credit for. I told him I was in between jobs, which was true, in the soft, humiliating way it's true when you're trying to sound temporary. He didn't ask why, he didn't ask anything really. He just pointed at the register, the coffee station, and the mop bucket, like those were the sacred objects I'd need to worship. Graveyard's easy, he said. You keep it clean, you keep the lights on, you don't fall asleep. Most nights nobody even comes in. He said it the same way people say it. It doesn't bite. Then he slid a single sheet of paper across the counter. My list, he said. Do it in order. If you finish early, restock cups and wipe down the hot dog rollers. Don't get creative. I looked down at it. It was titled in plain black ink. Night shift duties. It felt normal, comforting even. A script. I didn't notice anything strange until later, and that's the part that makes me feel stupid when I replay it. Because the strange part wasn't subtle. I just wasn't looking for it yet. The station was called Grady's Fuel. It sat alone on a long stretch of highway in West Texas, the kind of place you only stop at if your low fuel light is screaming or you're a trucker who knows the route by heart. Out front, 6 pumps stood in 2 neat rows, their digital screens glowing blue. A dead bug graveyard clung to the light fixtures. The air conditioner ran too cold. The floor tiles were always faintly sticky no matter how much you mopped. A payphone hung on the outside wall near the side entrance, mostly decorative at this point, but still bolted in place like a relic. At 10:45 p.m., Don left. He didn't wave. He didn't do the friendly thing where a manager says, "Text me if you need anything." He just stood at the door, keys in hand, and said, "Lock it behind me." Then he paused like he'd forgotten something. "Don't ignore the list," he added. And he left. The bell over the door rang twice, once when he went out, and once when the door settled closed. The sound felt too small for the amount of emptiness outside. I locked up, checked the cameras, and told myself this was fine. This was a job, a boring job, the kind of job where nothing happens. I unfolded the paper and laid it on the counter next to my pen. Night shift duties. 1. Count register drawer at the start of the shift. 2. Wipe coffee station, refill creamers. 3. Mop main floor. 4. Restock cigarettes behind counter. 5. Check restroom, refill paper towels. 6. Empty trash at 2 a.m. Halfway down the page, the text changed. The font went smaller and sharper, like it had been typed on a different machine. The spacing tightened. The ink looked darker. At first I thought the printer had glitched. Then I read the next line. Rule 4. If a black sedan pulls up at pump 6, do not authorize the pump. Turn off the lights and hide under the counter until it leaves. I actually laughed. Just a short exhale of disbelief. Okay, I thought. This is the hazing. I'd hear about this kind of nothing, night shifts, old-timers messing with the new guy. Make him jump at the shadows, see how long he can keep a straight face. I kept reading. Rule 7. Do not look at the man standing by the ice machine. He isn't real, but if you acknowledge him, he will be. My laugh died halfway out. The ice machine was outside, around the corner of the building, under a buzzing light. I could picture it perfectly. I'd walked past it on my way in, felt the cold air spilling out whenever someone opened it. I read the next one anyway because that's what you do when you're trying to prove you're not scared. Rule 9. If the payphone rings, answer it. If it's static, hang up immediately. If it's your own voice screaming, lock the back door. My stomach tightened in a way I didn't enjoy. I looked up at the camera monitor, then at the front windows, then back at the list, like it might apologize. I told myself it was a prank. I told myself, Don had a weird sense of humor. I told myself this was the station versions of a welcome to the team card. Then I noticed something I hadn't noticed at first. The list didn't have Rule 1, Rule 2, Rule 3. It jumped straight to Rule 4. Like the first three rules were missing. Like someone didn't want them printed. I folded the paper and set it under the register mat, the way you hide something you don't want to think about, but can throw anyway. Then I started mopping, because mopping is what you do when your brain needs a task to cling to. The first couple of hours weren't dramatic. A semi pulled in, filled up, and left without coming inside. A guy in a dusty Mercedes bought a coffee and two lottery tickets. A teenage couple stopped for gas and argued quietly by the energy drinks. Normal. Still, every time the bell rang, I felt my shoulders tense. By 1:30 a.m., the highway had gone quiet. No trucks, no headlights. Just a steady buzz of fluorescent and occasional soft click from the cooler compressors. I checked my phone. 1:31. I checked the security monitor timestamp. 1:31. Everything moved the way it should. I took the list back out and read it again, slower this time, like reading it carefully would make it less ridiculous. Rule number 4. Black sedan, pump 6. Don't authorize. Lights off, hide. Rule number 7. Man by the ice machine, don't look. Rule number 9. Payphone rings. Answer, static, hang up. Your own voice screaming, lock the back door. There are more rules below those. I hadn't even gotten to them the first time. Rule number 10. If you smell pennies, do not go into the restroom. Rule 12. If the coffee pot is full but the glass is cold, pour it out. Rule number 15. If you hear knocking from the storage room, do not open it. Count to 100 first. My screen crawled in a slow, annoyed way. It wasn't fear yet. It was the feeling of being messed with. I wanted to text Don and tell him this joke was stupid. But Don hadn't given me his number. He hadn't given me anything except the keys and the list. I told myself the station just attracted weirdos, and the rules were exaggerated warnings turned into a joke. Then at 2 a.m., I remembered the normal list item. Empty trash at 2 a.m. I grabbed the big black bag, tied it off, and headed towards the black door that led to the dumpster enclosure. My hand landed on the lock. I paused. Rule number 9. If it's your own voice screaming, lock the back door. The back door was already locked, but the rule didn't say keep it locked. It said lock it, like it would be unlocked when it mattered. I stared at the deadbolt for a long second, then shook my head hard, like I could shake the thought loose. Get a grip, I muttered to myself. I unlocked the door, stepped into the little service corridor, and pushed out into the fenced dumpster area. The night air hit me like a wall, warm, dry, and thick with dust. The lot lights didn't reach back here. The station's glow faded quickly. I tossed the trash bag in the dumpster and shut the lid, and the sound it made, metal on metal, rang out into the emptiness like an announcement. For a second, I had the urge to run back inside, not because I saw anything, but because being outside felt like standing on a stage. I walked back in fast, locked the door behind me, and breathed out. Then I noticed my hands were shaking. I told myself it was caffeine. By 2:45 a.m., my nerves have settled into something dull. I was behind the counter again, pretending to study the snack aisle arrangement, like I cared. That's when the outside payphone rang. It was loud, not like a normal ring. It was muffled through the glass, faint and metallic, like the building didn't want to let the sound in. I froze, because payphones don't ring anymore. Not out here. Not on purpose. I stepped closer to the window. The payphone hung there under this little hood, the cord dangling, perfectly still. It rang again. I felt my heart beat in my throat. Rule number 9. If the payphone rings, answer it. I didn't want to. I didn't want to validate the list. I didn't want to play along. But my feet moved anyway, because curiosity is the kind of weakness dressed up as intelligence. I grabbed the side door keys, unlocked the side entrance, and stepped out under the harsh light. The payphone rang a third time. Impatient now, I lifted the receiver. "Hello?" I said, and halted how small my voice sounded in the open air. Static hissed into my ear. Not normal static, not soft. It was aggressive, like sandpaper. Rule number 9. If it's static, hang up immediately. I slammed the receiver back down so hard it clacked. My breath came out fast. I stared at the payphone for another second, waiting for it to ring again. It didn't. I went back inside and locked the side door, hands clumsy on the key. I told myself it was the wrong number, a malfunction, a fluke. But deep down, a quieter part of me was already rearranging the world to make room for what had just happened, because the list had been right once, and once is all it takes. At 2:58 a.m., the cameras were steady, the lot was empty, and the store felt too clean, too bright, like the light was trying to scrub something off the air. I stood behind the counter with the list in front of me now, no longer hidden. I had circled rule number 4 with my pen like an idiot preparing for an exam. 3 a.m. hit. I watched the timestamp roll over on the security monitor, and on the far camera feed, at the edge where the highway cut through the dark, headlights appeared. Not fast, not sweeping, just 2 pale points gliding forward. The car turned into the lot without slowing. No music, no engine rumble, no tires on the gravel. It moved like the video feed was missing frames. It rolled past pump 1, past pump 2, past pump 3. It stopped at pump 6. Black sedan. Clean. Too clean. No dust, no bugs on the grill. Windows dark as oil. My mouth went dry so fast it hurt. I stared at the screen, waiting for some normal detail to snap me back into sanity. A license plate, a driver silhouette, nothing. Just the sedan sitting there, perfectly aligned with the pump, like it had been practiced. The pump screen lit up on its own, waiting for authorization. My hand hovered over the register keys. All I had to do was hit authorize. That's what employees do. That's what my job was. But the list sat in front of me like a verdict. Turn off the lights and hide under the counter until it leaves. I laughed once, sharp and breathless, because my brain couldn't hold the shape of what was happening without trying to break it. Then the bell over the front door rang. The door didn't open. It rang anyway. A cold line of fear ran down my spine. I didn't think anymore. I hit the light switches behind the counter. 1, 2, 3, killing the main fluorescents. The store dropped into emergency lighting, a dim red glow that made the aisle look like a different place. I ducked under the counter, knees banging the cabinet, and pulled my legs in a tight, like I was hiding from a storm. From under there I could see the bottom edge of the front windows. The lot lights still blasted outside, so bright it made the darkness beyond them look even deeper. My breath sounded too loud. I forced myself to stay still. Seconds passed. Then through the glass I saw shoes. Not inside, outside. Men's shoes. sitting near the entrance just beyond the window line. Polished black shoes that didn't belong on this highway. He didn't move. My chest tightened so hard it felt like a cramp. I remembered rule number 7. Do not look at the man standing by the ice machine. Ice machine. That was around the corner, not at the front door. My brain tried to reject it. Wrong location, wrong rule. But the rules were already bleeding into each other in my head. And the worst part was, I didn't know if it meant I was panicking or if reality was. From somewhere in the store, the cooler compressor clicked. Then the payphone rang again, muffled, metallic, outside. Once, twice, I squeezed my eyes shut. Answer it, the list says. But I couldn't move. My body felt pinned, like if I stood up, something would notice the movement and finish a thought it had started. The payphone rang a third time. Then it stopped. Silence. I listened for an engine, for footsteps, for anything. Nothing. Finally, I risked lifting my head just enough to see the security monitor above the counter through the gap. The black sedan was still at pump 6. The pump screen still reading, waiting for authorization. And now, beside the sedan, someone stood. Not a silhouette. In the driver's seat, a figure outside, perfectly still, facing the store. Even on the grainy camera feed, I could tell something was wrong with how he occupied space. He wasn't blurred by motion, because he hadn't moved at all. He wasn't lit like the car was lit. The light didn't behave on him correctly, like the camera couldn't decide how to render him. I thought of rule number 7 again, and my eyes burned with the effort not to stare. But my gaze snaggled on his face anyway, or what should have been his face. The camera feed fuzzed for half a second, like static eating the pixels. Then the figure's head turned toward the ice machine corner, slow and deliberate. Like it felt my attention. My stomach lurked. The bell over the front door rang. This time, the door opened. Not all the way, just an inch. A thin line of black appeared between the glass and the frame, and cold air slid into the store like a breath. My throat tightened so hard I couldn't swallow. Then the store phone behind the counter, my only line out, buzzed once. Not a ring, a buzz. Like it had been waiting. I stared at it, frozen. It buzzed again. Room number 9 suddenly felt like it had teeth. If it's your own voice screaming, lock the back door. My hand moved before my brain could argue. I reached up and grabbed the receiver. Great is fuel, I whispered, voice cracking. Static hissed. Not the aggressive sandpiper from before. This was deeper, layered, like wind through wires. I held my breath. Then, through the static, I heard a sound I recognized with sick certainty. My own breathing. Close. Panicked. Like someone had a phone pressed to their mouth in a dark place. And then my voice, my exact voice, started screaming. Not words, not sentences, just raw fear, over and over, as if the throat making it had forgotten language. My vision tunneled. I slammed the phone down so hard it rattled. I crawled out from under the counter on shaking limbs and sprinted for the back door. The deadbolt wasn't thrown. I swear it wasn't. The lock was in the open position, as if someone had quietly undone it, while I hid under the counter like a child. My hands fumbled, then found the deadbolt and slammed it shut. I pressed my forehead to the metal door and sucked in a breath that tasted like dust and pennies. I remembered another rule without wanting to. If you smell pennies, do not go into the restroom. The smell was here now, faint but real, like old copper wormed in my hand. Behind me, In the front of the store, the emergency lights flickered. The bell rang again. I turned back towards the counter, heart hammering so hard it hurt, and forced myself to look at the cameras. The black sedan was still there, but the pump screen had changed. Authorized. My blood ran cold. I hadn't authorized it. I hadn't touched the register. Yet the pump was live. Numbers ticking upwards in slow, steady increments. Not gallons, not dollars, just numbers, climbing like a counter. The figure beside the sedan lifted a hand, not waving, pointing directly at the store. The front door cracked wider, inch by inch, like something patient was applying pressure. I backed up until I hit the counter. My hand closed around the manager's list, like it could protect me. And in the dim red light, I saw something I hadn't noticed before. The bottom edge of the page had been torn off, cleanly removed. As if there were rules below Rule 15 I was never meant to see. The lot lights outside flickered once, and for a heartbeat, the darkness beyond the station wasn't darkness. It was surface, close enough to have texture, close enough to press. The figure at pump 6 turned his head towards the ice machine corner again, slow, inevitable, like he was listening for a look. My eyes stung with the effort to keep them away from that corner, away from whatever waited there. The payphone rang again. Once, twice, and inside the store phone buzzed, soft and insistent, like it wanted me to pick it up and hear myself. I didn't. I grabbed my keys, vaulted the counter, and ran to the side door instead of the front. I don't know if that was smart or stupid, but the list hadn't mentioned the side door, and that felt like a loophole. My hands shook so hard the key missed the lock twice. On the third try, it slid in. I yanked the door open and ran into the harsh side light. The payphone hung there, receiver vibrating slightly on its hook, ringing like it was begging to be answered. I didn't answer it. I ran past it towards the corner where the ice machine sat. I stopped myself just in time because someone was standing there. A man, half in shadow, half in the spill of light, facing the ice machine like he'd been waiting for it to do something. His outline was too still, too clean. He didn't turn, he didn't breathe. And the worst part, worse than any monster-shaped fear, was how ordinary he looked from the side, like a person your brain could accept if you let it. Rule number 7 came back, sharp as a command. Do not look at the man standing by the ice machine. He isn't real, but if you acknowledge him, he will be. I stared at the ground instead, eyes locked on my own shoes. I backed away slow, trying to not make sudden movements, trying to not let my gaze flick upwards, even for a second. Behind me, from the lot, I heard something I didn't want to hear. A car door opening. No slam, no squeak. Just a soft final sound of something that had decided to arrive. I bolted. I ran back inside, slammed the side door through the lock, and dropped behind the counter again. Like the counter was the only safe geometry left in the world. The front door was open now, not wide enough. Enough for cold air to pull across the floor tiles. Enough for the smell of pennies to flood the store. On the security monitor, the figure walked away from pump 6, not towards the store entrance, towards the dark edge beyond the lot lights, as if he was leading the sedan somewhere the cameras couldn't follow. The sedan's headlights stayed off. It rolled forward anyway, silent, gliding into the black. The numbers on the pump screen kept climbing even after the car left, climbing as if it were still feeding something. Then, one by one, the lot lights popped and died. The station's bright island shrank. The darkness pressed closer, and in that dim red emergency glow, I understood something with clarity that made me nauseous. The list wasn't a prank, it was a procedure, a set of instructions that only made sense if the wrong thing had happened enough times for someone to write rules about it. I stayed under the counter until my legs went numb. Eventually, the store lights steadied. The lot lights flickered back on, one at a time, like reluctant eyes opening. The pump screen reset to zero. The payphone stopped ringing. The air warmed again. At 3:14 a.m., a normal-looking pickup rolled into the lot and filled up the pump, too. A tired woman came inside, bought a bottled water, and left without looking at me. When my shift ended at 6, the sunrise came like nothing had happened. Pale pink, soft cold. The highway stretched innocent in both directions. Don showed up at 6:05, coffee in hand, calm as ever. He nodded at me. "Quiet night?" My mouth opened, but no sound came out at first. I slid the manager's list across the counter towards him. My finger left a faint smear of sweat on the paper. Don glanced at it like he already knew every word. Then he looked at me, and finally, for the first time, his expression sharpened into something real. "You followed it," he said. It wasn't a question. I swallowed. "What is it?" Don didn't answer that. He didn't have to. He reached under the counter and pulled out another sheet of paper. Identical title, identical first lines, only this one wasn't torn at the bottom. He held it just long enough for me to see the last rule. Rule 16. If the new clerk asks what the list means, tell him it's a prank. If you tell him the truth, you won't be able to leave. Don folded the paper and slid it back under the countermat, smooth and practiced. Then he smiled at me like we were sharing a joke. "Just a prank," he said. And behind his smile, in the reflection on the front window, the lot lights flickered once, very softly, as if something was outside, had heard my name and written it down. If you've come this far, thank you for watching this narration. If you liked the story or liked my narration of the story, please subscribe, please hit the like button, and please comment on the video. That would encourage me to do more of this.